Welcome to Hip Hop Movie Club, where three old heads put their old heads together to vibe on some of the most memorable or forgettable hip hop themed movies of all time. And here's HHMC with your HHMCs, Boogie, JB, and Dino Wright. Season 5, Episode 5, Roxanne Roxanne. Directed by Michael Larnell and produced by Nina Yang Bon Jovi, Mimi Valdez, Pharrell Williams, and Forrest Whitaker. Released in 2017 and featuring Chante Adams, Elvis Nolasco, Mahershala Ali, Kevin Phillips, and Nia Long. We'll answer the question, who is the real Roxanne?
Set in the early 80s in Queens, New York, Roxanne Roxanne is a biographical film about the precocious young battle MC Roxanne Chante. At the age of 14, Chante was well on her way to hip-hop prominence, all while balancing school, hustling to provide for her family, and trying to avoid the pitfalls of the streets. Boogie, what did you take out of Roxanne Roxanne? Your initial thoughts here?
All right, so Roxanne Chante is probably one of the most feared battle MCs on the scene, and she was only 14 coming out of Queensbridge Projects. And I do love I love that they did, mention that in the film. And she's also one of my favorite MCs just off the fact that she had no fear when it came down to the battle. She took on any and everybody that stepped in front of her. And the story definitely brings that across as well. It's very authentic because I've heard a lot of the scenarios that were mentioned in the film. I've heard them directly from her, like the shoplifting that she used to carry out to keep the bills paid. Marley Marl invited her up to his apartment to record, and then them pushing that song around to the radio stations and then finally getting played. The Roxanne Wars, where everybody was creating a response to Roxanne's revenge and just coming out of the woodwork, to her manager, shortchanging her out of her earnings, the random guys sexualizing her and saying that they wanted to be her man just off of, the chorus to her song, the domestic abuse that she suffered, and then, before leaving that relationship. So like all of those different things that were in the film, I've definitely heard those. So just seeing them on film just add a little flavor to the background of it. I do feel like Chante Adams did a bang-up job portraying her. Like, she was good. She was spot on. Nia Long is Nia Long. She's going to deliver. Whatever she's portraying, she's portraying a character that you like, you're going to love her. In this instance, she played a mother that had to make some hard decisions, that had a hard life. So you not necessarily like her in every aspect of with the portrayal, but you got to respect her for what she laid out on the film. Mahershala Ali, one of the smoothest brothers out there, but he was convincing, very charismatic. But when he turned, he came across very authentic as a guy that you hated. We got to see some of the Juice Crew members, being Marley Marl, MC Shan, Bismarck. So it was good to see them get some props in the film as well. We got to see that Death Fresh Crew scene, which we'll talk about that a little later, because I've heard about that song and how it came about. I've seen the actual video clip. So the little background that went into the film, I didn't really know that. So it was good to see that. And probably the last thing that I enjoyed was we got to see a young Nasir Jones, who grew up to be one of the greatest lyricists ever. Nas. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth watching if you don't know much about Roxanne Chante. We'll get into a little bit of some of the nuances that we felt were lacking, but I definitely think that it delivered.
Yeah, the acting was excellent. As you said, Nia Long, Mahershala Ali, they were great in the film. This was in the era of the early 80s where I first kind of discovered hip-hop and fell in love with it. And I remember the battles back and forth with the Roxanne songs, starting with UTFO, and then Roxanne Chante's with Roxanne's Revenge. And then there were many, many variations. And I always thought it was entertaining. And she was battle tested, and she never disappointed. But I didn't really know the whole backstory, so it was interesting to see her rough upbringing, how she had to resort to shoplifting. She had a stern mother who had some demons of her own with drinking. She was trying to help support her sisters. She had like 3 sisters, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like the mother figure because the mother was kind of, like I said, hooked on the bottle a little bit. And they were kind of very fearful of her. So all that she went through, and 14, when this record comes out, I mean, she dealt with so much. And as you said, there's a lack of the father figure, and then the male figures that she does encounter always, were both verbally and physically abusing her, and some in a sexual manner. So I give her a lot of kudos for breaking through all of that.
Yeah, Chante Adams, who plays Chante, is terrific. Wow. I had not seen her in anything, and so took a little bit of an uneven kind of script and direction, but wow, was so good. You have to be pretty good to go one-on-one with Mahershala Ali, who's an Oscar winner, and she was great. I really enjoyed. I mean, she ate up every scene. It was so good. I enjoyed seeing some of the 80s stuff too. Like there's a couple plot points around Sergio Valente. It's like that took me back. Like, you weren't wearing Sergio Valente, you better be wearing Jordache because that was it. But yeah, enjoyable. I was glad I watched it. It was nice to see things like Nas, like the origins of Nas and the origins of Biz Markie and some of the other names that we've heard about and listened to for many years, weaved into the story here. Shout out to Queensbridge.
Yes.
Yeah, I picked up on those 80s tidbits too. I love that era. In addition to Sergio Valente, there was a Crazy Eddie TV commercial, if you picked up on that.
Yes, that was great.
So for those that don't know, in the New York and tri-state area, Crazy Eddie was like an electronics company and store. And this ridiculously loud and obnoxious character would do the commercials named Crazy Eddie.
Our prices are insane. We need to put a clip. We need to find a clip for the show notes.
Yes, for
Put
sure.
a commercial in the show notes.
If you need to see Crazy Eddie, I must put this in the show notes.
Yes.
And Video Music Box was portrayed. You saw her watching Ralph McDaniels and kind of being mesmerized by that. So, it was kind of neat. The nostalgia, the hairstyle, the scenery, back in the 80s was kind of neat to take a trip down memory lane.
Yeah.
But it's a tough tale of her upbringing, like we said, because it's a single parent household with multiple children, young children, and she had to grow up way too fast. She was super talented with the microphone, winning these rap battles. She had her friend Renita as her hype person. She just kept saying, "The champ is here, the champ is here."
I love that.
Dozens of times. But it was sad to see that her mom, Peggy, played by Nia Long, as you said, was stern, but she still had a great heart trying to make a better situation. They were going to move to Jersey. She had saved up to like 20 grand. But when she first showed that to her boyfriend, I guess that was a mistake. He absconded with it. They lost all that money. They never tracked him down. And things got more and more difficult as Peggy spiraled a little bit out of control. Unfortunately, Roxanne Chante, she wanted to move out. She moved out by the age of 14 and was moving to this friend Tone. And it was a small apartment. And she was shoplifting really to kind of pay her bills and try to help out her sisters also. But he eventually sexually assaulted her, which was a bad situation. She has to come back home. And it's kind of really messy situation.
Yeah, she was battle tested on and off the stage, hard life, and trying to juggle an aspiring career in a male dominated industry is just tough. On top of that, everyone's looking at her and they're thinking she's older than what she is, but she's really that young. She's in the clubs because she's entertaining and she can put on a good show as far as battling, but yeah, she's not a drinker. She's not that age to be drinking, or in a normal sense, she shouldn't even be allowed in the club. But she got all these grown men approaching her, and it's just hard to watch.
Unfortunately, like I said, she gets taken advantage of. She does meet up with Cross And she had known Cross from the past. She had watched his son for a little spell there when he was at a convenience store early in the movie. But then she kind of links back up with him, and he gets giving her gifts. You know, he gave her a mink coat at one point. She had never really had that kind of a gift given to her, and she was kind of a little bit overwhelmed by that and falling for him. But he had demons of his own. You know, he was in the drug game. He was doing cocaine and dealing, and we all know the perils of that. Like you said, Boogie, she was able to record that song with Marley Marl, who was up in the apartment room, all the while doing her laundry. There was a joke about that. I saw an interview where she's like, I did this while doing my laundry because she didn't want to disappoint her mom. Marley Marl, who's a legendary producer in the rap game, he warned her, be careful taking gifts from people because they're gonna expect something in return. But she got a car and jewelry from some other folks, and then there's a lot of jealousy that unfolds.
Yeah, he was trying to warn her as a friend, but also at the same time, like you said, there's a little bit of hint of jealousy because she's the headline. Everybody's really coming to the show to see her, and that actually leads to the backdrop for the Death Fresh Crew song, because it actually comes to a head before a show where Marley just outright tells her, like, yo, you're putting on whole behavior. You know, you're taking stuff from all of these guys. They're expecting something in return. She's trying to tell them that that's not the case, but tempers flare, and Marl just refuses to perform as the backup DJ, the background DJ with any of her songs for the shows. And with that, he has all of the music. So Biz Markie volunteers to beatbox for her while she performs, and he goes out and he starts beatboxing, and she raps over that beat a cappella, and that actually became one of her biggest hits. And they actually ended up going back to the studio and recording that and putting it out there. But there's an actual clip of them. I actually watched it before we started recording again today just to see if it was still out there. But yeah, there's clips of that actual performance, the two of them performing that.
It was neat to see Biz Markie in his early days, starting out as a beatboxer, and then if you're a hip hop fan, you know he had a ton of success. You know, when Just a Friend became mainstream, but Vapors, he was legendary, and he was taken from us too soon just last year.
Her saying or rapping, he's Biz Markie is like burned into my brain. Like I can never forget that just one snippet. Followed by Mr. Dynamite sample from James Brown. So I'll go to my grave knowing he's Biz Markie.
So yeah, Marley Marl was warning her. Cross too was really possessive and very rough with Roxanne Chante, and you can see it kind of spiraling a little bit out of control as well. There was a scene, and it looks like it was in a diner with Roxanne Chante and her mom Peggy with Cross, and they were like, she was staring at him trying to figure out who he was. She was straight up with him. I'm trying to figure out who the F you are. She's only 16. You were darn near my age. Yep. And she was just kind of cussing him out. Like, what do you want to do with her? Like she kind of had that sense that he was trying to take advantage of her, or it wasn't a good fit.
Yeah. I love how she called him out.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah. When she said this part, she said, she's 16, you're almost you're my age. I was like, wow.
Yeah, and despite Peggy's shortcomings as a mother, and she had tough, with the alcohol abuse and like that, man, she stood up for her and was trying to make sure that she was taken care of in terms of not being taken advantage of by someone that was a bit older. I think she sensed that he had some demons in his closet as well.
Yeah.
I have to point out. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Cross was super physically and verbally abusive to her. Yep. Go ahead.
I have to point out that Chante's first name is Lolita. And so if any of you read this Nabokov novel, this is sort of a reverse Lolita situation here. She's not the one seducing the older man. It goes the other way around. As a choice for a name, I thought that, boy, that's loaded. Why name your daughter Lolita? That's tough.
I actually
setting
had
him up.
that in my
You're
notes
setting him up for
too.
some character building, if nothing else.
Yeah.
So, oof.
Yeah, I actually mentioned that in my notes as well. I was like, wow, that's a bit of a twist there.
Yeah, Cross was no good for her. He ends up hitting her several times, and the line that stuck with me is, I only hit you because I love you, and that's kind of like something you see sometimes in domestic abuse. Like, I only do that because I care. Like, I'm only yelling because I care so much. I'm like, I mean, that's not a justification. And then he gives her like a gold chain in the one scene, I think, when she was taking a bath.
Mhm.
But
Right.
when they had a child together, and then like finally, I forget, the child is just a toddler, I guess I would say. She wants to call it quits, and then he really explodes, and they have a physical fight, and he ends up like kind of choking her and abusing her. She fractured 3 ribs, and yeah, it's an ugly scene.
Yeah, that was tough to watch. Yeah, put her in the hospital with some fractured ribs. But then the crazy thing about it is, while she's laying in the hospital, the nurse is like, "Oh yeah, your father and your brother, your father and your brother were here." And I'm like, wait a minute, he actually took her to the hospital and said he was her father, and that was her brother instead of her son. I'm like, wow, the nerve.
Yeah, the psychopathy.
Yeah, that's just wow. That's that Tupac and Juice behavior right there.
Yeah. That's some,
Yeah, I was wondering
tough.
if he said that, or if she just mistook him as the father because of the age difference. I don't know if he like registered when he went to visit as the father. I didn't know how that played out, but either way, I mean, he was trying to possess her, so to speak, and take ownership of her life.
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
think the good thing about that scene is that, while she's there, her mother and the sisters came, and that was kind of like her, all right, baby, it's time to come on home. Come on home. What's going on? You're in the hospital bed now. It's time to come home. And she actually ended up leaving to go back with them at
Yeah,
that
that's
point.
rock bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, she wants a fresh start, and you see that she gets a haircut at the end. Towards the end, she gets a haircut, and she was saying like this rap game's not for me. Like, F rap. 4 years and still no album. She was talking to Ray, her manager. She's like, I put in all this time and effort and energy into this, and it's not paying off in a literal sense or figuratively. Um, and towards the end, she wants custody of her child. She wants her child back that she had with Cross. And the sinister Cross says, "You got any money? I want 10K for the child." So she ends up going seeing a lawyer, which, did you catch, was played by Ad Rock
That was great.
from
I
the
was like,
Beastie
wait a
Boys.
minute. That's
Yeah.
that's Adam Horovitz. He plays it so good too.
So they come up with the money, and she does get her son back. And then the closing scene is, she had encountered Nasir, who as a child, who wanted to step to her with some rap and see how he was, and she had told him, you got to get your stuff together. You better do a good job and work hard at it. And when I see you, I want to see you really come with it. And then at the end, he comes with a really well crafted rap. It was kind of like, oh, Nas is grown up. This is Nas. And
Yeah.
true story that she influenced him big time. It was a good after credit scene, which had the real Roxanne Chante
Yeah.
from years ago being interviewed. She was saying how the men back then weren't really stepping up.
Yeah. That was a good addition, I thought.
Yeah, I think maybe that was when she was joking about the laundry
Mm-hmm.
while she recorded with Marley Marl, the initial
Yeah.
Roxanne's Revenge.
I think for a film, it looked good. There was that scene where they cut between the conception and the birth and the abuse. That was really well done. That was like, whoa, quick move. It sort of almost didn't fit with the rest of the movie, but like, wow, it really worked.
Yeah.
The cinematography that's used there, like, those quick scenes. But I think I saw like Roger Ebert's review. He touched upon that as well. That was really impressive. I was reading something that Roxanne's Revenge was ranked number 42 on VH1's 100 greatest songs of hip hop. That was from back in 2008. So there's been a lot of other content produced since then. But and this film, which was out there on Netflix, if you guys want to see it, was shown at the 2017 Sundance Film Festival, and it received a lot of acclaim, especially Chante Adams' performance as a breakout performer. A couple things out there that I question or would have liked to see done a little bit better. We were talking about this a little bit before we recorded. Like, I didn't really get the sense that we saw the importance or full significance of Roxanne Shante's legacy. To me, I admire her strength and heroism. She really is like a martyr. She never really made it big. She kind of retired around age 25 or so because of all the hardships, but she definitely paved the way for so many female rappers to come. And I don't think the writing really illustrated that. There was no like epilogue saying, I would love to see clips of like some of the acts that came after her and did make it big, like the MC Lights, Queen Latifah, even all the way up through, Missy Elliott, Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, all these folks that like females had no voice in the game until Roxanne Shante came out.
Yeah, I think towards her later song, like I remember there was one song that she put out called Big Mama, which she basically just decimated everybody out, any female rappers that were out. But there's a couple of times she mentions in her later songs that, I gave birth to most of y'all MCs, referencing, the legacy that she put forth and giving the female MC a voice in a male dominated industry. So she knew her significance, but it would have been nice, like you said, to see some of that portrayed in the film as well, even if it's just an epilogue, some kind of mention of it.
It really doesn't give you the payoff of all the hardship that he went through. Like it was all for like nothing. You see that, she enabled Nas. Like what? That's not quite the message I think we wanted to see, or we were supposed to get, and not like, because of Roxanne Shante, we got MC Light and Queen Latifah and Cardi B and stuff like. So yeah, I don't think her legacy was put into proper context.
Yeah, I also wish the film would have mentioned some of the beef between Boogie Down Productions and the Juice Crew. I mean, because it kind of kicked off, with KRS One, MC Shan going kind of at each other back and forth. But then when KRS One put that infamous line in "The Bridge Is Over," Roxanne Shante is only good for steady bumping, but for lack of a, they didn't want to use the actual word, but this prompted Roxanne Shante to respond on "Have a Nice Day," one of my favorite songs from her, and she says, now KRS One, you should go on vacation with a name sounding like a whack radio station. And as for Scholar Rock, you should be ashamed. If Scholar Rock said it's yours, he didn't mean his name. So step back, peasants, popping all that junk, or else beady people stand for broken down punks. Because some and all start just like Julius Serving, and Roxanne Shante is only good for steady serving. And I was like, what? When I heard the first time I heard that, like, KRS One is like, like few people want to battle KRS One. And when she put that out, I don't think KRS One ever responded to that. Like, I'm looking like, I don't recall him ever responding to that. But she just really just put it out there. Like, yo, listen, don't put my name in your mouth. This is what's going to happen. Because I'm like, think about it. KRS One, it does sound like a radio station. But like when she said that, I was like, wow.
I am going to have to go back and listen to that track. I never heard that.
When I first heard it, I was like, wow. But again, just, mentioning of it, because that was the beginning of hip hop. And like, yeah, we knew hip hop started in the Bronx, but it also kind of blossomed in Queens not much later. So there's that back and forth dynamic. And as she was battling people in Queens, she was also battling, people all over the city. So yeah, just a little mention of that, would have been nice, or something along the lines, and that would have been nice to see in the film as well.
Yeah, there was no mention of the Roxanne Wars that you said, and there were so many responses. That was such a huge thing. Everybody was piggybacking off of this feud and these rap battles and back and forth dialogue. It became a little cottage industry of sorts. There was like over 30 of these types of songs that all started with UTFO and then Roxanne Shante, and there was not a mention of that. Like I like to see that this spawned so many other acts because she came up with this back and forth. Her collaboration with Sparky D,
Yeah.
they were kind of rivals, and they kind of teamed up. And like I said, I would like to see even an epilogue explaining some of that, as well as what happened to some of these folks. Like it doesn't, if you are on the periphery of hip hop, you're not as steeped in it as we are. I'd like them to spell out how huge Biz Markie came to be. Nas, he's even more well known. Even her friend Renita, Ray, Sparky D, Marley Marl's distinguished career. I would like to see some of that kind of like spelled out as to this person went on to do this and all that. Yep.
Yeah, you mentioned Sparky D. And it was cool that they actually mentioned Sparky. I would have been kind of disappointed if they didn't mention Sparky D. But one thing that I did see in Sparky D's portrayal in the film that I didn't really realize is that they were rivals and they battled one another repeatedly. But when Chante was getting shortchanged by the manager, when he claimed to have been robbed of his money after paying Marley Marl and paying Sparky, the money that he was going to get Chante was stolen. Sparky actually came out of her pocket and was like, hey, listen, despite what we say against one another, we're still women. We still got to look out for one another. And actually gave Chante some money. And I was like, wow, like that was kind of touching because I've never heard any mention of that ever. And Chante did sign off on it, so I'm like, she signed off on this movie, so that I'm like, that actually probably happened somewhere. So it was good to see that in the film as well.
Yeah, it was a nice touch by Sparky D. I remember as a kid hearing the Roxanne's Revenge. And I always remember the part of the educated rapper, and she's going back and forth, the educated rapper. And I had to look him up again. He was one of the 4 members of UTFO. Mm-hmm. His name was Jeffrey Campbell, or EMD. And I was looking up, he passed away back in 2017, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yep. And then Kango passed away last year.
Yeah.
Kango Kid, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. That was recent.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought the movie moved a little bit slowly in the beginning because it was some of the character development, but then it kind of picked up, and the rap battle scenes were great. She really put everybody in their place, whether it was male or female. She would just destroy people. Yeah. So precocious, at such a young age, having that type of flow was incredible.
I remember one time I heard a story about one of the battles, and like it was at a block party or something like that, and she was supposed to battle someone, and she was getting ready to perform, and somebody said, "Oh shoot, there goes her mother," and then realized that her mother was coming through the crowd to snatch her up and take her back home. But they didn't show that. They didn't show that in the film. But I always remember hearing that story. But like this is when it showed like they were on their way towards the battle, and Peggy told her to, win that $50.
That was the first thing I wrote down. I don't care what you do as long as you win that $50.
So that had to happen after the story that I heard about, because now Peggy's on the side of, let's go get this money now.
Oh, you can make money from this. All right, well, go get some. Let's get this bread.
Bring home the cheddar.
Upping the ante a little bit. Like, I'm not doing a $50 contest. I want 100, and then there's $250. She kept up and up. Like, I won $100 contests, no problem. I'm battle for $250. Let's go.
I like that part. Yeah,
that's
good. Yeah, you should know your worth. I think that's an important message.
Yes, know your worth. Absolutely. But Roxanne Shante, I listen to her when I drive home from work. I listen to her every day, just about. She hosts the Have a Nice Day show on Rock the Bells radio station by LL Cool J on Sirius XM. She hosts that show with DJ Cool V, who's one of her longtime friends and collaborators, and also one of the DJs from the Juice Crew. So I listened to her. She's on there from like what 3 to 7, 4 to 7, and she cracks me up. She's hilarious. She's raw, and she tells a lot. Like every now and then, she'll tell some of these little stories anecdotal stories that popped up in the film. So I was like, wow, it was kind of cool to see some of that stuff. She definitely knows her worth now, and she does a lot of motivational speaking and things like that, outreach and talking to women, women's groups and things like that have to deal with domestic violence and et cetera. So she definitely knows her worth now. I mean, and now she's actually performing again. Like before, she wouldn't perform at all. So now she'll actually go perform some of her songs now too. So which is good. Like she's re-embracing herself as an MC, and she does little freestyles on the radio every now and then as well. So it's cool to hear that she hasn't lost it. Other than those couple of things, those little nuances that we didn't get to see, like I would have wished they would have developed a little bit more. I do think the film I do think it's entertaining. It could get you on that little rabbit hole spiral effect where you start trying to dig and find out who she really was and who she really is and what has she done. So it definitely holds that significance.
So did you enjoy the music? Is one of the things we always ask. And there's a lot of Roxanne Shante's music. Yeah, it was great. Great songs.
One of my favorite 80s songs was in this I Can't Wait, My New Shoes.
Yes. Oh man, so good.
Oh man, I was like, oh my God. Yes.
An all-time banger. Yep.
Yes, it was.
That reminds me of roller skating. That one, and whenever I hear Let the Music Play by Shannon, like those are just great classics.
Yeah.
Classics. That's a wow.
Yeah, music's great, and I don't think the question we asked about could it be made today. It was only a few years ago.
It was basically made today.
Pretty much,
yeah. It was basically made today.
Yeah. Oh, did you hear Egyptian Lover?
Yes.
The Egypt song. Yeah, that's a funny one. Playing in the club. Yeah, entertaining musically for sure. So you want to go around and do our overall ratings as we typically do? So, Boogie, as a rating for this, would you say bring that funky flick back?
Bring that funky flick back?
Or leave it in the vault?
Yeah, despite some of the lackings that we mentioned earlier, I would say that I like to bring this funky flick back just off of the cultural significance of it. It's not a documentary, but you get a nice, solid portrayal of some of the stuff that happened in her life. So, yeah, bring that funky flick back.
Kind of right?
Yeah, it does lack some context and placing her legacy in context, but Chante Adams, 5 stars. Terrific. Bring this funky flick back.
So I'm going to take a hard line here. I'm going to say definitely watch it for the acting. Watch it once, but I'm going to say leave it in the vault. And the reason I say that is because of all those shortcomings. Do your research, learn about Roxanne Shante. She is significant, but there's so much more to her story. So watch it once, do additional research, follow her on the social medias, listen to her on Rock the Bells. But I wasn't overly impressed myself as a film.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
We haven't had to leave it in the vault for a while, so good. Speak your truth.
Yeah, you can't have a perfect record here. You gotta draw a line in the sand sometimes.
I mean, if we had a rating system, I would probably put this in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Hip Hop Movie Club is produced by your HHMCs, JB, Boogie, and Dino Wright. Theme music by Boogie. Check us out on TikTok and Instagram at Hip Hop Movie Club. On the next episode of the Hip Hop Movie Club podcast, your HHMCs will review How High. It drops in 2 weeks. Subscribe today in your favorite podcast app and you won't miss it. Shout out to you listeners. Thanks for tuning in.
And remember, don't hate, Celebrate.
Celebrate good times. Come on.
Celebrate. Celebration.
Shout out to Brain Freeze Trivia in the Lehigh Valley. Check out the Instagram, brain_freeze_trivia_time. That's Brain Freeze Trivia time on Instagram.